What if the person you're falling for was right in front of you, but you didn't even know it? Two high school students accidentally swap notebooks and start sharing their deepest secrets through anonymous notes. As their hidden connection grows, they find themselves drawn to each other, unaware they've been sitting just a few desks apart. Will their secret bond turn into something more, or will their identities remain a mystery forever? It all started on an ordinary Monday, just like any other day at Yunha High School. The sun peeked through the clouds, casting a soft glow over the campus. Inside the bustling classroom, Jinwoo, a quiet boy with a love for drawing, sat near the back, sketching in his notebook as usual. Across the room sat Hana, a diligent girl with a penchant for writing poetry and daydreaming about her future. They had never spoken to each other, despite being in the same class for years. Jinwoo preferred the quiet, often lost in his own world, while Hana was focused on maintaining her grades and thinking about her dreams of becoming a poet. However, fate has a funny way of connecting people. The bell rang for lunch, and in the rush to leave, Jinwoo accidentally grabbed the wrong notebook from his desk. Hana, preoccupied with finishing her assignment, didn't notice either. Both of them carried on, unaware of the switch. Later that evening, Jinwoo sat at his desk, ready to unwind with his sketches. But as he flipped through the pages, he noticed something strange. Instead of his drawings, the notebook was filled with beautifully written poems and snippets of thoughts. At first, he thought it was a mistake, but as he continued reading, he was captivated by the words. Meanwhile, at her own desk, Hana opened what she thought was her notebook, only to be met with intricate drawings of landscapes, characters, and emotions sketched out in careful detail. She was confused at first, but soon found herself lost in the beauty of the artwork. Without realizing it, she smiled, impressed by the hidden talent behind the pages. The next morning, Jinwoo realized the notebook wasn't his, and he immediately planned to return it. But something stopped him. One particular poem had caught his attention, a poem about feeling lost, about not knowing where life was going. It resonated with him, reflecting his own uncertainty about his future. Instead of simply returning the notebook, he decided to leave a note. On the last page of the notebook, he wrote, "Your words, they speak to me. I don't know who you are, but thank you for sharing your thoughts. I'd like to hear more." He signed it with just a simple letter, J. The next day, Hana found the note. Her heart raced as she read the anonymous message. She had never shared her personal thoughts with anyone, yet here was someone who understood her. She wasn't sure how to respond at first, but something about the note intrigued her. On the next blank page, she wrote back, "I'm not sure who you are either, but your drawings are beautiful. Do you ever feel like you don't belong? Like you're drifting?" She signed it with H and left the notebook on her desk, hoping that whoever had written the note would find it. Days passed, and the two continued to communicate through the notebook. Neither Jinwoo nor Hana knew who the other was, but they found comfort in their shared thoughts. Jinwoo would write about his worries, how he felt invisible in a school full of people, how his passion for art often made him feel out of place. Hana, in turn, shared her dreams of being a poet, her fears of failing, and the pressure she felt to always succeed. Their conversations grew deeper as they began to trust each other more with their thoughts. Each note was filled with vulnerability, hope, and a sense of connection they had never experienced before. Despite being in the same class, they remained strangers in the real world. Jinwoo would glance around the room, wondering who H could be, but he never guessed it was the quiet girl sitting by the window, the one who always seemed lost in her own thoughts. Hana, too, looked at her classmates differently, wondering who J might be. As the days turned into weeks, they both found themselves looking forward to the notes more than anything else. One afternoon, during a school project, the teacher assigned partners. By sheer coincidence, Jinwoo and Hana were paired together. Neither of them realized the significance of this, but as they worked on the project, they discovered they had much in common. "Do you like to draw?" Hana asked one day, noticing Jinwoo doodling absent-mindedly. Jinwoo nodded. "Yeah, I've been drawing for as long as I can remember." Hana smiled. "I like to write poems." Their conversations were polite but distant, with neither suspecting that they had already shared their deepest thoughts through the notebook. Later that day, Jinwoo picked up the notebook and found a new note from Hana. Have you ever wondered who I am? I've been thinking about it a lot lately, but I'm afraid to reveal myself. What if everything changes? Jinwoo thought long and hard before responding. I think about it all the time, but maybe we're not ready yet. I don't want to ruin what we have. We'll know when the time is right. The anonymity of their exchanges continued, but something was changing. They were starting to feel something more, something deeper. The annual school festival was approaching, and the students were busy preparing for the event. Hana's class was in charge of a poetry reading, and the teacher asked if any students wanted to share their work. Hana hesitated, but after weeks of sharing her thoughts with Jay, she felt braver than before. I'll do it, she said quietly. Jinwoo, overhearing her, was surprised. He had no idea Hana was a poet. His curiosity about her grew, but he didn't connect the dots just yet. On the day of the festival, Jinwoo's art club set up a gallery of their best works. He displayed his sketches, not expecting much attention, but he was proud of what he had created. As the day went on, Hana's poetry reading began. Jinwoo, wandering around after his shift at the gallery, heard her voice over the speakers. Something about her words felt familiar, pulling him toward the stage. He watched from the back as Hana stood, reciting one of her poems, a poem he had seen in the notebook. It was in that moment that everything clicked. Hana was H. His heart raced as he realized that the person he had been communicating with all this time was standing right in front of him. But now that he knew, what would he do? After the festival, Jinwoo returned to the classroom, where he found the notebook on his desk. Hana had left a new note, one that felt more final than the others. I think I'm ready to meet you. I'll be waiting at the library after school. If you don't come, I'll understand. Jinwoo's heart pounded in his chest. He had grown so attached to the anonymity, to the safety of their hidden conversations. But now that he knew who she was, he couldn't deny his feelings anymore. After school, he walked to the library, nervous but determined. When he arrived, Hana was sitting at a table near the window, just like always. She looked up as he approached, her eyes widening in surprise. You're Jinwoo, she whispered. He nodded, unable to find the right words. They sat in silence for a moment, both of them processing the revelation. But then, Jinwoo reached into his bag and pulled out the notebook. I guess I'm Jay, he said with a small smile. Hana laughed, relief washing over her. And I'm H. They spent the next hour talking, not through notes, but face to face. It was awkward at first, but soon they realized that the connection they had built through their words was just as strong in person. As the sun set outside the library, they knew this was just the beginning of something special. From that day on, Jinwoo and Hana's relationship blossomed. They continued to share their dreams, fears, and thoughts, but now they did it side by side. The notebook, once their secret connection, became a symbol of the bond they had created. And as they walked home together, Jinwoo couldn't help but think that sometimes, the best love stories are the ones that start with a simple mistake. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell to follow more stories that make your heart flutter. Thank you.